Okay, so now that we have this, what we want to do is, again, we're only going to work with these, but you can't really get a perfect circle off of this. But what we're going to do real quick is we're going to grab this end, or this edge, and this edge, and we're going to scale them up. Now, if they aren't scaling up evenly like this, that's more than likely because you don't have your scale tool set to, not the magnet, but the this pivot center like we've talked about before. If I do it all at once, they just kind of go as one master, but if I set this to pivots their own centers, then they'll each be scaling in their own. So I'll get something like that, so they're all kind of on the outside. This one's probably a little bit less, so I'll keep going with these. All that. There we go. Okay. So next thing I need to do is cut edges on the sides here, so I've got some nice, decent divisions for the interior of this. So if I grab this one and push Alt-R, it'll go all the way down. I'm essentially going to ignore this stuff down here. And I'm not cutting it in half yet for a reason, but I'll explain it to you. You'll see when we get there. And then I'm going to come to my connect again, and I'm going to connect. And it should be pretty close, but we may want to move these, of course, since they're done at the same time. We'll just say yes, and then we're going to change this back to center and pull this out so they're all in the same there. Like that. So I've got this one and this one and this one, and you know, I've got these four edges. And what we're going to end up doing is something that's called spherify. And if you don't have it in your tools yet, I'll show you real quick. Configure modifier sets. Just add another thing. Come to here, type in spherify, and double click it, and it's going to be there. So there you go. So next thing we probably want to do is give it one more subdivision down the middle this direction. Oh, not that one. This direction. Alt-R goes all the way down the middle like that. And then we may, you know, we could form this by hand, and that would be a problem. That'd be a pain in the behind, so I'm not trying to do that. But I'm trying to give it even sides, so there's one division down the middle, one division down the middle, and then they each have the corners. So, and once we have those one divisions, I can kind of get a form of a circle. You know, I could probably even go like this and then scale this out a little bit. But what I want to do even more before I do that is give it some more subdivisions. So I'm going to divide these edges here again. So we go back to W, go to edge mode, Alt-R, so I grab all those. I'm just going to give a connect real quick. One down the middle like that. Okay. So this next step is a little bit tedious, but it has to be done because the shortcut way of doing it, another way of doing it, doesn't actually work correctly. So we'll just do it this way. So I'm going to cut these down the middle like we talked about, and then I'm going to come over to the modify, or to the poly mode, and I'm going to grab, well, all of those actually. I'm going to grab all of these. I'm going to go to Q so I don't move them by accident. Q just makes me have the selection tool and not the move tool. I'll grab all of these, and I'll grab all of those. And then I'm going to delete them. Now, this tool right here is supposed to be able to do them all at once, and I'm not going to show you where to get to it right now, but if we look at two, if I go to this one and I say circle, it does that, so obviously that's not working. So we're going to close that one. We're going to use my other tool. It's called spherify. The problem with spherify is that you have to collapse it after each one because it's a modifier. I could put an edit poly, so I could go spherify, see how it's a sphere, but I can't select the next one unless I either collapse it or say edit poly, and then do edge mode, and then spherify, and then edit poly, and then edge mode, and then spherify. So that's the way a lot of people just stack them. I'm personally more happy with just doing it this way, and then grabbing this edge mode, and then saying spherify, collapsing it, so I'm back in the poly mode. Okay, so that's what we did there. We did that really fast, and I know these are a little bit different, but what we're going to do is now we're going to mirror so we have all of these in the same spot. So if I come over here, without even cutting it this time, like we did a minute ago, I'm going to say symmetry, I'm going to say Z, and then I'm going to say flip. And now I've got all my dots where I need them to be, and I'm going to say convert to editable poly again. And now if I go to 3 mode, which is the edge mode or the border mode, and I can just grab all of these at once like that. And now I want these to extrude out a little bit because the way I designed them. So I'm going to say W for move, and this is where I do most of my magic. So I'm going to pull this up like that. And you can see when I pull it up at first, it's kind of got a bend to it like that. See how it's bent across that edge right there? Meaning that it's bent across like the edge or the cylinder. All I'm going to do real quick is going to use my my planar direction and say Y, and it flattens it for me. Or it's supposed to have. Hold on, I grabbed everything there by accident. There we go. And if I say Y, it flattens it for me. So now it's just a flat. And then I can say Alt, or I can say R for scale, and I'll scale it in a little bit. And see how they're scaling uniformly in. If when you do it, it does this. Or some weirdness like that. That's really weird. Oh, I'm on the wrong scale, that's why. If it does something like this, that just means that you don't have the independent scaling tool turned on. So we're going to go back to this where it's two check boxes or two plus symbols, and then if I hold shift and drag it in, I get a little bit of a build in like that. And the next part is for jewel. So I'm going to go ahead and say move again, move it up. And the trick with jewels is that at first you want to move it more and scale it less, but then as you get further and further closer, so I'm not even going to push shift this time, I'm just going to scale it in. And then I'm going to hold shift and scale it in a little bit more and move it up a little bit less, so you can see them starting to get that bend there. And then I'm going to shift and drag it up, only because that was the one tool I had, a little bit less, and scale it in a little bit more. And then if you want, you can just cap it like this. Or what I usually do is I hold shift and I drag it in, and shift, and then I just collapse it. So it does that. One of the tricks about this is that this now a bunch of tries right there. Well, if I come up here to go to 2, and I just do every other edge like this, I'll do it on here too. Sure, oops, I guess it doesn't, I might as well keep them the same. So I'll do this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And then I backspace to get rid of them. Now, look at it, it's a quad. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like a tri, but it's still a quad, and that one is too. So we can also try, and there's some shortcuts, and this is a menu that I guess I shouldn't shown you yet, but if you pop this down up here, sometimes it takes a second. If it does, just give it a second. There's an option up here that says dot loop, I think. Let me see. Yeah, no, that won't work in this case. It's a really cool tool, and we'll probably use it some other time, but like that. And actually, we can make our life even easier. And then just backspace. And then do symmetry again. Z, and then flip. So now I've got all my quads there. Now I've got my gems, and if that's as thick as I want them or less, I can scale them if I want and all that stuff too. But now I've got my handle done, and that's part, we're going to go to the next part in a second.